Hello and welcome to Explicit Tarot. In this lesson we're going to learn about the first part of the Fool's journey, and it's going to give us a look at the core themes of the first 12 cards of the Major Arcana. Now would be a good time to open the worksheet. It's in the supplementary material, and follow along so that we can see the relationship between the Fool's story and the meanings of each card. So the first card is the Fool, and it's marked 0 because it is his journey. And the Fool is energetic, eager, and slightly naive as he is ready for his new adventure. And in his knapsack he has the bare necessities with him. He doesn't take any excess baggage. And his innocence and enthusiasm lets him overcome his fear of the unknown. And to relate to that, you have the Fool himself, who symbolizes that energy and enthusiasm and new adventures, new beginnings. The first person that the Fool meets on his journey is the Magician. The Magician is very skillful and very confident, and he asks the Fool for his knapsack. So the Fool hands his knapsack to the Magician, and the Magician sets it on a table. Then he takes his wand and points it to the sky, and takes his other hand and points it at the earth. And he speaks a few words, and magically the knapsack opens to reveal tools. It reveals a wand, a sword, a cup, and a pentacle. And the Magician lets the Fool know that he now has all the necessary tools, resources, and inner power to make things happen. So this comes into play with the Magician as it being a sign that you too have all the tools that you need. You have the power or the inner resources to make things happen. It's just a matter of becoming aware of those tools and using those tools in the right way in order to get what you want. So next the Fool meets the High Priestess, and he sees that she's holding a book. She's sitting in front of a curtain, or a veil in this case, and she doesn't say anything. She just kind of gives him a knowing look, and he believes that she's a great seer. So he asks her, what is he supposed to do with these tools that he's received from the Magician? And the High Priestess just invites him to take a seat and asks him, what do your instincts tell you? What does your intuition tell you? And the Fool takes a minute to sit down and really listen to his inner voice. And he realizes that deep within, he already knows what he's supposed to do with his tools. And with the High Priestess, that's what it's all about, is knowing that deep within, in your intuition, your inner voice, you know the answers already. Your intuition will give you all the answers that you need. Next, the Fool comes to the Empress, and he sees her beauty, he sees her luxurious surroundings, and he, sits for a while and tells her about his journey. And he tells her that, he wants to make things happen. He knows, based on his intuition, what he's supposed to use his tools for, and now he just wants the results. Well, the Empress tells him that, just like a new child or, a new plant, things that you are creating or nurturing, they take time and patience in order to grow, and you have to nurture them and care for them so that they can grow and come into their full result. And with the Empress, that's what she is a message of. She's a message of using the abundance around you and nurturing your creation so that they can grow into their full expression. So next the Fool meets the Emperor, and the Fool immediately sees that the Emperor is fully in control of everything. He surveys the land, he delegates tasks, and people obey him immediately. And the Fool asks the Emperor, well, how do you do this? And the Emperor tells him, it's great and all to be imaginative and intuitive and even creative and patient, but in order to have control over your creations, you have to add rules and you have to add structure and you have to be observant. And in order to create a solid foundation for your future. So, and that's where the Emperor, when he comes to our tarot readings, that's what he's telling us, that there needs to be rules and structure, and you have to take control of what you've created, take control of your resources, and make sure that things are running smoothly so that you have that solid foundation. So once the Fool uses his tools and his intuition to create his foundation and to make sure that, he has the right structures and order in place, he's suddenly, struck with this fear of losing everything he's created. So he seeks the counsel of the Hierophant. And the Hierophant is the wise, leader of people. And the Hierophant tells him that, even if you lose what you have, you still have the knowledge and the experience of creating it in the first place. No one can take that away from you. So the Fool says, okay, well, what about the people that I've met and, built relationships with? What about them? And the Hierophant tells him that, you may, lose contact with those people, but you still have the traditions and the ethics and the beliefs that you've built with those people, that you've shared with those people. And so by having that, you can always maintain that fellowship and have that sense of community with everyone, as long as you share those same beliefs and ethics and traditions. So the Fool's relieved by this and takes that into account as he moves on. And in this, with the Hierophant, it's all about the traditions and the ethics and beliefs, and how, you can always recreate that with others. You can share that with others, and in knowing those traditions, you can move forward in your own journey. So now the lovers. So now the Fool comes to a crossroads, and on one path, there's a fruit tree. And he knows that the fruit tree will provide him fruit and, feed him, and he'll have instant gratification because fruit is awesome. On the other path, there's a woman. And he begins talking to this woman, and he realizes that she's his soulmate. And he's, he comes to the understanding that, this woman is his soulmate. This woman represents true happiness, true love, lasting fulfillment. Even though if he takes her on his journey, it's going to be more work. It's going to be added trouble because he now has to take care of two people instead of one. However, the Fool chooses, to take the woman along with him because he knows that she's, representative of his true future. And that's where the Lovers comes in. It's about making a commitment to your path. And you can choose the path of instant gratification, or you can choose the path that, while there may be more work involved, it will lead to a more lasting fulfillment. So now the Fool comes to a point in his journey where, he feels like he's surrounded by enemies and obstacles and he's not moving forward. So he takes a walk on the beach. And on the beach, he meets a charioteer. So, he sees a charioteer with his, black and white, sometimes horses, sometimes sphinx. He sees his armor, and he asks him, he's like, well, how do you move forward? How do you, gain your victory? And the charioteer tells him that in order to do that, you have to be focused and you have to be determined. You have to, keep your eye on your goal and make sure your horses are moving in the direction that you want to go in. That's how you win your race. And with the chariot, it's all about having that focus, determination, knowing what your goal is and moving forward towards it without letting any distractions deter you from your path. So then we come to strength. And in the story, the Fool meets the maiden, and as she's struggling with a roaring lion, and the Fool watches as the maiden suddenly pushes the lion's mouth shut, and he's wondering how is she doing this. So then he goes to ask her, but then as she looks at him, he realizes that she has this infinite generosity and compassion in her spirit. She has this higher energy that he realizes the lion wanted to connect with that. Well, he asked her, okay, well, you have this higher energy. Why are you hanging around with a lion? And the maiden tells him, well, the lion has, wild, fierce, passionate energy. And I want to connect with that just as much as he wants to connect with mine. However, I also know that if he will let me guide him and, influence him, that we can both benefit from it. He can benefit from my energy. I can benefit from his. So strength is about, we all have that wild, fierce energy. We all have our, great passion inside of us. Some people see it as a baser instinct. However, if we influence that passion with generosity and compassion, it'll mean even more progress for us as we move forward in our journey. So after a while, the fool decides that, he spent a lot of time creating things and ruling things, and, now he wants to spend some time alone. So he goes off into the mountains, and he takes these nightly walks with his staff and his lantern. And as he walks, he, holds the lantern up so he can light his path. But then he's realizing that, while he's seeing, different steps and seeing different creatures of the night, he's also learning more about, the world and himself. And, he takes this time to, do some introspection. And in learning about these things, he realizes that, he can share these findings with others as he goes back to civilization. And that's what the hermit is about. The hermit is about, taking time to yourself, withdrawing from, the everyday world in order to have a moment to yourself to learn more about yourself and to look within yourself to see, what can be best for you. And in doing so, you can share what you learn with others. So after his time of introspection and solitude, the fool decides to go back home. And on his way home, he sees a man sitting on a large wheel. And, as he's walking towards the man is just smiling at him, mysteriously. And the fool's like, okay, all right. So the fool keeps going, and as he gets directly in front of the wheel, man suddenly just throws a bag of gold coins at the fool. And the fool's like, what's this? What's going on here? And the man tells him, he's like, I woke up this morning and I decided that the 10th person that passed by me today was going to get that bag of coins. And with the perfect timing, you were the 10th person. There's your bag of coins. And the fool, was like, well, all right. And, with the wheel, it's, generally about timing and synchronicity and, things that aren't necessarily in your control. But that if you go with the flow of time, if you go with the flow of seasons and cycles and the energy around you, you find that, auspicious, fortuitous things will happen. The fool is, happy about, his gold coins, but he still feels like there's something missing. So he's, still on his way home, and he sees this woman, another woman, sitting in front of a veil, but this time she's holding a sword and scales. And, it's a slight reminder of the high priestess, but in a different aspect. So he asks the woman, well, I feel like something's missing in my life. So, what can I do? And the woman tells him that, well, your present situation is the direct result of your previous actions. For every action there is an effect. For every cause there's an effect. So in order to change your results, in order to change, your situation, you have to adjust your actions and adjust your approach. So the fool takes that into account and, decides that, he needs to make some changes in his life in order to, have a different outcome. And that's what justice is about. A lot of the times people see it as, legal situations, but really and truly it's about making those adjustments. It's about looking at, your situation now and seeing what was the cause of these results. And if you want different results, you change your actions. And that's the end of the first part. That's the end of the first video. And, now we see the beginning of the fool's journey and the outer journey, where he's interacting with the world around him, and how those lessons come into play based on the story. We also see, where the meanings for each card are derived within the story. Take some time to go over your worksheet and compare the meanings to the story. And in the next video, we'll get into the latter part of the journey, which will be the inside journey.